like and subscribe, and leave a comment below. The Dark Secrets of the Forbidden City. The city lay shrouded in perpetual twilight, the sun's rays barely penetrating the dense, swirling fog that clung to the ground like a living entity. It was a city forgotten by time, abandoned by hope, and whispered about in hushed tones across the lands. The Forbidden City. My name is B.N.Rocker, a private investigator. I had heard the legends, the tales of disappearances and shadows that moved on their own, but nothing could prepare me for the chilling reality I was about to uncover. I stepped off the old, creaking bus that had transported me to the edge of the city. The air was thick with moisture, making every breath feel like a struggle. As I moved deeper into the city, the streets seemed to close in on me, buildings leaning forward as if they held secrets they were desperate to share. A low growl of thunder rolled across the sky, and the first droplets of rain began to fall, adding a spooky rhythm to my footsteps. The map I had been given was old and tattered, but it was all I had to navigate this maze of decay. My destination was clear, the heart of the city, where the answers to the city's mysteries were said to reside. The deeper I ventured, the more the sense of dread overcame me. Shadows seemed to move just beyond the edge of my vision, and whispers echoed through the narrow alleyways. As I approached the central square, a grand but dilapidated building loomed before me. The once majestic architecture now stood as a crumbling testament to a bygone era. This was the Hall of Echoes, the rumored epicenter of the city's dark secrets. I pushed open the heavy, rusted doors, and they creaked in protest, the sound echoing through the vast, empty hall. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and the only light came from my flashlight, casting long shadows that seemed to dance across the walls. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and atop it an old, leather-bound book lay open. The pages were yellowed with age, and strange symbols adorned the margins. I approached cautiously, with sweat dripping off my face. This was it. I was told it would be here, and here it sits. As I reached for the book, a cold, bony hand grabbed my wrist. I spun around, my flashlight illuminating the gaunt face of an old man. His eyes were wide with fear, and his voice trembled as he spoke. "Leave this place," he whispered urgently. "The city is cursed. Those who seek its secrets are doomed to become part of its darkness." I pulled my hand free. "I have to know the truth," I replied. "I can't turn back now. It's just who I am. I'm on to something, and I will not be able to stop until I solve it." The old man sighed. "Then you must be prepared for what you will find. The Forbidden City is not just a place. It is a living entity, feeding on the fears and souls of those who dare to enter." He disappeared into the shadows as quickly as he had appeared, leaving me alone once more. I turned back to the book. The words spoke of an ancient ritual, a pact made with a malevolent force that granted the mayor of the city its power in exchange for eternal servitude. Suddenly, the ground beneath me shook, and the walls of the hall seemed to close in. The shadows grew darker, and a cold, malevolent presence filled the air. I could feel it, the entity the old man had spoken of, awakening from its slumber. I grabbed the book and ran. The city's layout was a blur as I retraced my steps. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if urging me to stay, but I pushed on. My only thought was to escape the clutches of the city. I burst through the gates, the fog lifting as I crossed the threshold. The city's grip on me loosened, and I collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. In my hands I still clutched the book, the key to the city's dark past. As I looked back, the city seemed to fade into the mist, its secrets once again hidden from the world. But I knew they were there, waiting for the next brave soul, or foolish enough to seek them out. As I lay on the cold, damp ground outside the city's gates, the reality of my escape began to sink in. The book I clutched was not just a collection of ancient texts. It was a living document. I knew I couldn't linger. I had to get as far away from the Forbidden City as possible. I staggered to my feet. The bus that had brought me here was long gone, and I had no choice but to trek back to the nearest town on foot. Each step felt like an eternity, the distance stretching out before me like an endless nightmare. Night fell quickly, and the darkness brought with it a bone-chilling cold. I kept moving, driven by the primal urge to survive. The city's whispers seemed to follow me, echoing in the back of my mind. After what felt like hours, I finally saw the faint glow of streetlights in the distance. The town was small. I stumbled into the nearest tavern, desperate for warmth and a moment of rest, and a stiff drink did sound good, I had to admit to myself. The bartender eyed me warily as I collapsed onto a stool. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he remarked, pouring me a shot of Crown Royal. I tossed back the shot. "You could say that," I replied. "I just came from the Forbidden City." The bartender's eyes widened in shock. "You're lucky to be alive," he said. "Not many who go there ever come back." I nodded, too tired to explain the full extent of my ordeal. "I need a place to stay," I said, "and a phone. I have to call someone." "There is a phone in each room, and the rooms are upstairs. First one on the left is vacant, but be careful who you call. The city has a way of reaching out to those who escape its grasp. I have seen it before." I thanked him and made my way to the room and used the phone, dialing the number of my closest friend and fellow investigator, Mark. He answered on the second ring. "Stan, where the hell have you been? I've been trying to reach you for days." "Mark, you won't believe what I've found," I said. "I need your help. Meet me at the old tavern in Ridgewood, and hurry." I hung up and looked around the room. It was small and sparsely furnished, but it offered the promise of rest. I locked the door and sank into the bed, with the events of the day replaying in my mind. Sleep came in fitful bursts, plagued by nightmares of the Forbidden City and the malevolent force that inhabited it. I awoke in a cold sweat, my heart racing as a sense of impending doom washed over me. I checked the time. Mark would be here soon. I knew I couldn't keep the book for long. Its power was too great, its secrets too dangerous, but for now, I needed to regroup and plan my next move. I gathered my things and made my way downstairs. The tavern was empty, except for the bartender, who gave me a curt nod as I passed. I stepped outside, with the morning light temporarily blinding me. Minutes later, a familiar car pulled up and Mark stepped out. "Stan, you look like hell. What's going on?" I handed him the book. "This," I said, "this is what's been causing all the trouble. The Forbidden City, the disappearances, everything. It's all connected to this." I explained to him everything, in great detail. "Yeah, and I'm starting to think the old man was the mayor, with his last touch of humanity plaguing him, reaching out to try and warn me." Mark's eyes widened as he took the book, flipping through its pages. "We need to get this to someone who can help," he said. "Someone who understands what we're dealing with." I nodded in agreement. "Let's go. The longer we stay here, the more danger we're in." As we drove away from the tavern, the city of Ridgewood receded into the distance. But I knew better than to let my guard down. The dark secrets of the Forbidden City were far from over, and its reach was longer than I could have ever imagined. And so, for now, the Forbidden City remains a place of mystery for those who dare to enter. The city's shadows will always be watching, waiting for its next victim. This is not goodbye, nor the end. Until the story continues, my friends. B.N.Rocker.